Anyway, what I was saying is that I'm not going to go into big long depth about what Linux is, what it does. It's an operating system, and I know everybody's heard that before. Everybody in here, when you go home and sit behind your computer, whether it's a laptop, desktop, whatever it is, not what's in the closet, not what's in the basement, in the box, in the corner, because it's 5, 10 years old, but what you use when you get home. How many people in here are using Commodore 64s? I knew you were going to say that.
Trash 99.
Right, exactly. A Trash 80, that'll do it.
How many have a Commodore 64? Really?
I've got
You know what that's worth?
I've got a VIC 20. But anyway, so anyhow, what I was going to say was, how many people in here are using Windows of any flavor? Raise your hand. Yeah, okay. How many people in here are using Apple or Mac of any flavor? Okay. Very good. How many people in here are running Linux? Okay, very good. Linux is an operating system that does a lot of things a little bit differently than what Windows does. And there again, I'm not going to get into a big long thing, but if you'll notice that if you have an older computer that you've got in the basement or in the garage that you're not using anymore, you can break that thing out, and it may be 5 years old or whatever, and you say, well, it runs too slow, I want something faster, newer, whatever. You can put Linux on it and it'll run like a screamer, because Linux handles programs differently than Windows does. Windows will take a program, execute it, and when it gets done, it just plops it down anywhere it wants to. That's why your hard drive gets defragged. You got to defrag it. Linux doesn't do that. Linux takes the program, runs it, and when it's done, it puts it right back where it was. So you don't have all that defragging going on that you need to worry about all the time. There's a gentleman, KB1 OAQ, Andy, and Andy has been doing this distribution using Ubuntu Linux for some years, where he takes and puts all these ham radio programs so you don't have to go out and download them, which are free and they're on the repository to download and put on your machine, and comes out with a distribution once a year or so, and that has everything in it. And what you can do with this, with Linux, using a USB key like this, Micro Center $5 deal, or a CD, DVD if you want to use that. And what you can do is you can burn an ISO to it, real simple to do, and you take and download that program, just do a search on his call sign or Andy's Ham Shack, and it'll come up and you can download it, burn the ISO, plug it in, and you can run it on any machine you want to. And it doesn't bother the operating system that you have on that already. It runs outside of that. It boots on that and runs out of RAM, and it runs fast. If you put it on your hard drive, you can run it as a partition outside of Windows 7, 8, whatever you run it. So you can do it that way. What I like about it is you can go on eBay or whatever, and you can get one of these little Acers like this, $50, $75, and it's a dual core 64-bit machine, 2 gig of RAM and a 250 gig hard drive, and it'll run like, shenanigans. It'll just do great. Or if you got something in the basement or in the garage you want to use, you can do that. So what you do is when you boot up on this, it'll come up and it starts loading into RAM if you're going to run it this way and not put it on your hard drive. But you can basically, you're test driving, it's fully operational, everything works fine, but you're not loading it on your hard drive, you're running it actually out of RAM by doing it this way. So what happens is it will load and it comes up and it starts itself. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what he's doing with this to make it so easy right out of the box. Just like some of the people who sell, like Bridgecom, who's selling DMR radios now, they've got their right out of the box. You buy it, put it in, and it's ready to go. In other words, the plug and play world is what we're trying to get at here, where you don't have to go try to reinvent the wheel to get something going. Linux is not difficult. It's very simple. Yes?
Are you booting off of hard disk?
No, I'm on a USB key.
Okay.
Yeah, not the hard drive. Thumb drive, a little thumb drive, yeah. Micro Center 4 gig, $5 job.
Did you say that was Andy's Ham Shack?
Yes, Andy's Ham Shack. And I'll send a thing out, once I'm done with this, I'll send out a thing on the Groups IO explaining what it is and where to go with some URLs and stuff that you can go and look at. It'll come up like this, and what you have to do, if you notice when it was booting, it said how to log in, and it wants you to log in using Ubuntu. There we go. All right. So once it comes up and gives you their, it's just like a Windows machine. You're not going to see a lot of difference. A lot of people in the early days where it was all command line stuff, that was totally different. Right. Well, the Linux, in the beginning. What you're going to get here is you're going to get, of course, you can put any kind of wallpaper you want, just like Windows. You can put, your grandkids on or whatever you want to do. Down here on the bottom, you're going to see that this is running what's called the ICE desktop, which is the desktop version. There's different ones out there you can use, but what he's got in here is that. You've got all of these different, if you'll notice the cursor here, you've got all these different things here at the bottom that do certain things, and I'm going to go through that.
We don't see it.
It's not mirroring your desktop.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, here we go.
here we go.
Yeah, it looks like you got
Yeah. I'll have to turn around this way because it took it off the screen. Okay, I got it. I got it. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, James. Okay, what we got here, it looks a lot like your normal Windows. It looks like your normal Windows desktop, and of course you've got your time over here, and then next to that you show what your CPU is, your RAM, how much is free, your swap space if you're using it, which we're not, and the speed of the CPU. It's giving you some information there that you don't normally see. What memory's available, free space, cache, buffers. It also shows you the interface, type that you're using on it, and your transfer in and out and all that, which really doesn't help you a lot. If you'll notice that what this is seeing is it's seeing what's on the hard drive, which is Windows 7 Service Pack 0. That's what's on the top. And then it shows different bit rates and all that. And then to the left of that, on the green, it shows your power of what your battery is. So it's giving you that status. I'm just showing you what's going on with Ubuntu here. Okay, over here you've got, these are your favorite applications is what we're going to look at. And what he puts in here, terminal is used with Linux to do certain command line stuff. And you can do command line type administrator in the root directory or however you want to do that. That's not for this, what we're doing now, but I just want to show that to you. Also, you have your web browser. He's got Firefox on here. There's another web browser, which is a very lightweight browser that works very well if you don't need a lot of security and you just want to look for something in particular. It doesn't mean a lot. It's just a very lightweight browser. Then you get into the part that we really want to talk about. What he's got in here as far as amateur radio is concerned. He's got some antenna type things in here which are kind of neat. And some people, you may have already heard of some of these where you can do different things with Rig Expert, which we all know that's the real fancy thing to look at antenna stuff with, and some other programs that utilize that. Then you've got, under the CW part, you've got your keying part, you've got your FL key or FLW key, some other things that use for keying, for CW, being able to receive or transmit, or being to be able to get online and do some things. This is just showing the code there. That really doesn't mean a lot, but it has some CW programs in there. I think the biggest part of this that's really neat is he's got all of the FL Digi suite in here, and also the packet stuff, and Echolink and FreeDV, and people, you know what FreeDV is, right?
What?
FreeDV.
Yep.
Ron, tell them what FreeDV is. You're the expert on that.
No, not really. FreeDV is poor man's digital radio for a jack. You can download the free DV program, and if you need 2 sound cards. So if you've got a signal link on your HF radio, you've also got a sound card in your PC. That gives you 2 sound cards. It gives you true digital on HF. The advantage of digital on HF, there is absolutely no noise when you're not talking. It is totally dead. Now, it does take a little bit more power to get the same distance, but it really is nice. Years ago, just back in the 1950s, when AM was very popular and sideband was just coming out, the guys on AM said sideband is never going to work. Well, that's what the sidebanders are saying now about digital. Okay? It is, if you ever get on, you get download free DV, get it working, you will be amazed. It is like pure FM. The sound quality is unbelievable.
Ron, isn't that the one that we
Yes.
tried that one time?
Yes. We finally got you working, didn't we?
Well, I'm sure he's still out on that.
There are several free DV nets on the weekends that people are on with free DV, which is, it's kind of neat. Of course, Echolink, we all know what that is. Direwolf is like use that 7HO. It's a packet program that a lot of the time it's used for APRS.
Like if you bring up Echolink, the program GUI is the same, right? It looks the same. I mean, it's
And that's where you set it up. You go in and set it up with your username, your Echolink. That's the server that we all use and everything for that. And then your user info, where you put in your call sign, your password, that they give you. When you got it. And then when it comes up with the screen, it looks just like you're running now.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks. There's no difference.
Familiar.
Yeah.
It's not something.
No, it looks just like it.
Okay.
All right, it's just, you can't tell any difference between the two. Okay, yeah, I know that it's missing because we didn't do nothing. Okay, all right, so go back to amateur radio. Then if you go down more digital stuff, you've got all the FL Digi, FL Message, FL Wrap, all that in there, just like normal. So when you go in to set up everything under FL Digi, you go in and you just like normal, and this is the latest one back 2 months ago. Okay, this is the latest version. And you go in, and when it comes up on the screen, my finger's not working right here. You put your call sign in, and I'll do that real quick here.
So what we're seeing on the screen here, the first of all, Linux is a free operating system.
Right. It's free,
Okay.
no cost.
And those programs that we see there, those are just free downloads that will in fact work.
The only thing that costs on Linux that I found out is Red Hat Enterprise for commercial use with back office servers is the OS. Everything else is free. So even the programs and the repositories that are on here, what is it now? It's up to 170,000 programs or something like that. With the repositories where everything is stored out on the internet. You can go and
Gotcha. Okay.
maybe put money in. Anyway, so this is the normal FL Digi. I mean, it's FL Digi. There's no different. And Dave Fries writes this so that it's the normal FL Digi. It does everything just like normal as far as that's concerned. So that's all the same. Then if you move on down through, some of the other parts of the FL Digi suite is just like the other stuff, FL Message, FL Wrap, and all like that. JS8 Call is in here. This program is a program that's used for monitoring ports and everything for digital nodes that you can use, and you can look at power levels and spectrum and all that as far as your frequency and your power and all that and what the dB levels are.
What's that one
It's kind of like a utility program.
What's that one called?
This is called Guilford, Glfer, Guilford. And I don't know why he put it in there, because some people requested it, I guess is the reason he put it in there. I've never used it, so I don't know. Then JS8 Call, and of course we know what that is because those of us that have been on JSA Call, and again, Jordan's going to be coming in August to give us a talk, who wrote this program.
Why
Will-
isn't that loading up?
Did I not hit it right? Maybe I didn't hit it. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay. And that's JSA Call, and of course, those of us that have used JSA Call, it's looking for, your call sign and all that. So we'll just cancel that. But that's JSA Call, which is just like FT8, except it's conversational mode. It's not his computer talking to your computer, and you're drinking coffee and watching the race on TV while your computers are talking. You can actually get on and talk to somebody, your keyboard to keyboard type thing. But it's the same as FT8. So if the bands are crappy like they are now, it works the same as FT8. It's basically
Stuff you can't even hear.
Right. Exactly. So that's JSA Call, and KN4CRD, who lives here in Atlanta, he's going to be here in August to talk to us about
Is
this.
this, is that,
No.
No.
FT.
set up to use for like field day where you can load, exchange in, like you do on a teletype contest, you set all of your stuff up, or you load the exchanges in.
Right. And what it does,
You do the same thing with this.
right, exactly. And what that mail, the email you sent out the other day about the link between Linux and N3FJP to be able that bridge across to make everything, that I don't have that loaded on here because I'm just what is right out of the box, but it shouldn't be difficult to load if we wanted to, if you wanted to load it to make sure you're talking to N3FJP. And then, of course, some of the other digital modes. You got Linux Packet, PSK Mail, which has been around for a long, long time. Me and Ron tried with PSK Mail to get it working. We can never get it working. I mean, we tried years ago, but there's people using it, but we never could get it to work. GSSS-TV, which is a slow scan TV program like MMSS-TV. You can use that for, speaking of my voice, you can use that for doing like the International Space Station, the same type thing. It does that. It also has built into this program DRM. That's for, you can monitor some DRM type information that would come across. I've never messed with that at all, but it's there if you wanted to use it. But that's a slow scan TV program like MMSS TV is, and it works basically the same.
I think it works better.
You think so? I like MMSS TV for a lot of reasons, but there are some other SSTV programs out there that are probably under Windows that are probably as good or better. But I've heard some people talk about GSSTV, and the people that I've heard talk about it really love it. But I've never really, used it. TinyTrack is for using tracking on APRS. Then, of course, we got the old WSJTX on here that he put on there, which a lot of us have, of course, used. We all know that screen when it comes up. So that's for using WSJTX. Well, so take this to boot here. Let's see. Here it comes. And since I'm not connected to anything, it's probably going to say it's giving me all kinds of errors here. Let me get out of it. But that screen should look familiar to you also. Well, let's just do this. Let's just go to another window and say the heck with that. And let's go over here, and we'll go down to HF propagation, electronic design. There's design programs in here if you want to design circuits. You can do antennas. It's got a Smith chart generator in it. All kinds of different things. You can do schematics, and it's really good programs as far as, and I've used the schematic program before, and I've used the Smith chart before, and I've used the Gerber viewer before, and they all work very well, and they're very fast and very slick. So there's a lot of stuff to play with there if you wanted to do design or any kind of electronic type thing. You can do.
This is not unique to Linux.
Right.
This is just things that you
Right.
decided to load into that.
Right. I'm just showing you what he's done into this distribution so that, to show what you can do with it without having to go jump through hoops to get a Windows program to work. So some of these programs are on Windows as well. You can use them on Windows because they're written for Windows, Linux, or Mac, or whatever. Then you got HF propagation, you got FL cluster, the DX cluster program, the beacon stuff. Then you've got, of course, Larry and all of us are very, very familiar with this one, which is for if you want to see, propagation and things. Some of these programs I'm only running. Now, keep in mind, I'm running this off a USB drive. I'm not running it off a hard drive, so it is a little bit slower. Yeah. Okay. Let's close.
Oh, that's okay. That's right. Some drives are not very.
No, they're not. Let's
USB interface, pretty slow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
But if it was on the hard drive, it would be running a lot better than this.
Hard drive, bang, bang, bang.
yeah,
Right.
Okay. That's right.
It's only about 400 meg.
So anyway, the VOCAP program that Larry had done a presentation on here a while back on that. That's for HF propagation, and we all know how that works. So, and of course you've got a sun clock, a solar data, which gives you what's going on as far as the solar data. Have you done anything with SPLAT, Larry?
No.
Okay. SPLAT is a program that will give you RF coverage over a certain area. What you can put into SPLAT is you can put in what frequency you're on, like if you're on VHF or UHF or even on HF. You can put in the frequency, you can put in your power, your antenna gain, height above ground and all that, and tell it where you are, and it'll put up a splat on the screen showing what your coverage should be. If it's omni, or if it's directional, you can say, well, I'm on this lobe, and it'll show you what you're. That's a really nice little program. I've used that before.
Really useful if you enter a contest and you're not hearing anything.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. Then you just switch to one of those 25 antennas you have up, and you just find one that works. Then if you go to logging, you got CQR log, which has been around forever. You got your K-log, and of course, a lot of everybody knows what this one is right here. That should come up, and you should see that. You should know what that is. It's your interface that goes into Logbook of the World, and that's that's the interface for TQSL, just like you would put on your Windows machine, for Logbook of the World.
So is Lee? Sorry to interrupt. But
Oh, it's okay.
N3FJP, which is very popular amongst most of us, is that written for Linux? Or
No.
I'm sorry.
No, but you can run N3FJP under Wine, which is the Windows interface. If you want to, it'll work under that.
I see.
See, it wants to load into Logbook of the World and all. This is your original screen that when you signed up for Logbook of the World, you went in and set everything up. This is the same screen you would get to set it up, under Linux. So it's basically it looks identical. There's no difference to it as far as that's concerned. So that's your Logbook of the World interface. All right. So if you go back here to this and you get down here to rig control. You've got Chirp. Everybody knows what Chirp is. Of course, a lot of people use RTS systems, but Chirp does the same thing. Then you've got FL Rig, which is your rig control under FL Digi, and all like that. Then under your satellite stuff, he's got in here, he's got Earth Track, he's got HamFax, which if you want to facsimile on HF, if you've got something going on there, and it'll even work on, if you had something to copy WeatherFax off of satellite, you could do that. gPredict is a program that is a prediction thing that shows you, like where the satellites are. Now, right now, it'll show you where the International Space Station is, or where SO50 is, and it's moving. And it'll show you where FO20. So, in other words, if you want to say, well, where's the International Space Station right now? Well, it's over Africa. I sure as heck ain't going to hear any slow scan TV coming off the International Space Station. But when it comes over, and what it does, it picks up the Kiplinger elements, the KEPs, and loads it in there. And of course, one thing nice about this, and this also is a Windows program, and it's online too. You can browser it if you want to run it that way. You can as well, and you don't have to load the program. But it shows you the speed and how fast it's moving and where it is and its azimuth and excuse me, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good little tracking program for the satellite if you're into satellite type work. Which is kind of neat. Then you've got SDR. So a lot of the newer radios nowadays have software-defined built into it, and there's a lot of receivers out there that you can buy that are SDRs. And these are some of the programs that work with SDR. And of course, on Linux, one of the nice ones that I like is called Dream. It doesn't look very impressive, but once you get your SDR hooked up to it and you bring it up with the SDR plugged in, then the whole world opens up into where you can see, and it gives you all of your, but right now it's not to because there's no SDR hooked to it. But it works really well. So, you know, you can get those dongles off of eBay and everything that are like a USB drive that they say are a SDR. Well, yes and no. They're Chinese knockoffs that, you know, if you spend $20 on it, you might as well bought a pizza on Friday night. But if you go with the RTL-SDRs that are the real ones like that, they work pretty well. Chuck's got one, and he uses. And of course, what's being pushed now is like some of the Raspberry Pi interface SDRs and SDR Play that Ham Radio Outlet sells, and some of the others, AirSpy and all those. They're really, really nice high-end SDRs. And a lot of people are using programs like this now to monitor the software-defined radio that they have plugged into their laptop, and they're buying that little MFJ $69 jobby that Dan bought. He's not here tonight. And what you do is you take your HF radio, runs 100 watts or whatever, and you use, that's an older type radio, and all it is a sensor switch, and you use your laptop and an SDR high-end receiver, and you use your transmitter on your older radio as your transmitter, and you use your SDR. So you take your radio that's 15 years old, it's not SDR or whatever, and you turned it into an SDR radio basically for $69, plus your SDR receiver, whatever you're buying.
Yeah, some of these SDRs that just blow your desktop away.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, they're unbelievable.
Yeah, and you can, if you look at them and say, okay, I want to take my radio that I've had for a long time and I want to sit down and listen, and I'm listening to that on whatever antenna you've got, and you're listening and you say, man, I can hear that guy in there, and I saw him on the DX cluster, and I know they're there, and I need them, I really need them, and they're hard to hear, whatever, and you flip over to your SDR radio. If you're using an SDR radio like an Elecraft or an ICOM IC7300 or any of those that are SDR based, or Flex if you can afford them, and they just come to life, because the SDR, the software-defined radio, has such sensitivity and selectivity, it just pulls them right out of the mud, and they're right there. And I know that I have, and Chuck has, and all of us have really, things you really can't hear otherwise, you can hear with those.
I got a couple of different SDRs.
It's unreal, isn't it? It's night from day from the older rigs. I mean, it's there. I can hear it, and you flip over there, it's there. You know, it's.
After watching the link you sent out, I used to say it was a third computer. It's really 2/3 computer at least, and a third radio.
Right, and the other one, what's the other one that?
I got the SDR Play too.
Right, and that works. I've got an AirSpy, which is a little, and it's unbelievable. It's just unreal what it'll do. Those of us that have SDR radios, like I've got a KX3, and Steve's got a KS3, and some of the other folks have got 7300 or whatever you've got that are SDR-based tabletop radio. It's amazing when you turn it on and start playing with it, and you can't believe it. It's just unreal. It just mess your mind up because you can hear so much better. And you can go and spend $50 or $100 and get your real nice SDR receiver, plug into your laptop, and you can do the same thing if you don't want to go spend $1,000 on a new radio or $2,000 or whatever. So that's under the SDR world, and it's got some other stuff in there as well. Now, if you look at this is under the operating system itself. There is information about, this is the desktop, the ICE desktop, and you've got a section with other documentation that you can pull up. It's got different things that show up under there that you can bring up from hotkey type thing. Like if you got a Wushang radio, it'll go to the Chirp program to download it. You've got some hotkeys set up in here if you want to do some fast stuff to get to something. Your system on the operating system has got different things in here. You've got your system monitor, shutdown, just like you do reboot, like you do on Windows. You can install to USB drive if you want to install it to USB drive. If you want to take this program that's on, excuse me, that's on the thumb drive, and you want to put it over on the hard drive, you can do that as well from this menu, and it'll partition it off. If you want to add and remove software, you bring that up, and what that does, it should throw you over to the repository, which it does, and in the repository, which goes out in the big world, and what's loaded on this, believe it or not, what's loaded on this thumb drive is 2,148 packages. Now, they're not all being used, but they're there. Excuse me. There's 170,000 or whatever it is packages out there. Get on the web and you can download any of them. It'll bring it up, and it's real simple because it used to be years ago with Linux, if you were going to load something, you had to jump through all these hoops. It wasn't like Windows where you could click it, exe, it'll install it, you want to do this, whatever. Now they've gotten Linux to that same type thing. You go, you bring it up, you look at it on the repository, this is what I want. You click on it, it brings up the information about it, a little icon of what it looks like and all like that. This is what you want to do, or you want to upgrade the package, and you click on it, and it downloads and installs it. So you don't have to go through that old stuff like you used to, where it would drive everybody nuts trying to upgrade a program.
It's like Google Play or Microsoft Store.
Right. Under utilities, you've got your utilities, your sound, your clock, your calculator, your DVD burner, your email, file manager. Just same thing as you do for like you do on Windows. Microsoft, I should say. Then you got Firefox, and you brighten a setting under toolbar. Programs, you do this, and it's going to bring up your applications, your games. If you've got applications on here, that what he's got built into this, your graphics, your networking. There's a science section, your amateur radio part. Any of your viewers, like if you've got a PDF viewer and stuff like that under there, you can do. And then Windows is just showing what's in the Windows list. What is on the Windows? This is a window, this is a window, this is a window, and this is a window. A window. So you can have multiple things running in Windows at all times. You just click between the window. So right now, under window number 1 is WSJTX is running. Remember, we never shut it down, and we went over to Windows 2. So if you go over to Windows 1, that's where it is. It's there. We're on Windows 2. So it's running. It's there. If you want to go back to it, you can. Then you've got your browsers that I was telling you about too, Firefox and the others. Excuse me. You got your themes, which is your backgrounds. Excuse me. If you want to use a Windows 95, you can do that too. You can make it look like Windows 95 if you wanted to do that, which I don't want to do, but anyway. So basically what this does, what he has done with this distribution, which is Ubuntu distribution, is plugged in all these amateur radio programs to it so you don't have to go out and build it yourself. And you can run it on a thumb drive and not interrupt your operating system that you have, or if you have an older computer and you don't want to kill the operating system on it because you got Aunt Jenny's pictures from 15 years ago Christmas and you don't want to get rid of them and you haven't ever taken them off, you can load it, partition it off, and have it to run that as well if you wanted to do that. So that's basically what this is. It's very simple to burn a USB stick and put it in and run it if you wanted to do that, and it runs very well and very fast. So, any questions?
What you showed us today, you have not added any programs.
There's nothing. This is right out of the box.
What you get when you get Andy's ham shack.
Right.
Oh, that was my question.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that stuff comes as a package from the state.
What?
And
And he just and he updated this back
that's
March 20th or 30th or whatever it was. He had not put. He was getting ready to come out with the package, and he had not put in JS8 call. And I was corresponding back and forth with him, and I told him, I said, you really need to put this in there. And he looked at it, he said, yes, I do, and he added that to it, and then he kind of delayed the out of the distribution for a week or two until he got it in and got the bugs worked out like he wanted it. He doesn't put this out unless it's right. In other words, he builds this on a distribution like Ubuntu, and he builds it that way, and it's ready to go, and he tests it. He came out with a version back in February, which was version 2022, and it had some bugs in it. And he's got this thing on SourceForge where you download it, where he has all these people and comment about stuff, and having this, that, and the other. So he took it down. He came out with 22A. That had a few bugs in it that he thought he had worked out, but all of the community, like me and others, looked at it and said, no, this isn't right, it's not working right. And then he took it down and came up with 22B, and it's good and hard and stable. And so I waited till the last minute. What you see is what I downloaded today and burnt that and plugged it in and turned it on.
So this, you go to his website, you download this package and boom.
Right. What you have to do,
Huh?
Set to go.
what you do is you download the ISO file. It's Andy's Hamcheck 22B.iso.
Yeah.
It's 64-bit. He's not doing a 32-bit anymore because he said people weren't downloading it. They were just downloading the 64-bit one. So he hasn't done that. Now, he's got all of his earlier versions in there. You can go back 5-6 years if you want to download a 32-bit, you can. But this new one's a 64-bit that he's doing. But I downloaded it today, and all I did was burn the thing and plug it in and turn it on, made sure it worked, and slammed the lid and came to the meeting. So nothing's been added. It's just like it is right out of the box.
So there's no, wow.
It's free, and everything's free. Doesn't cost anything. And it's ready to go. Full browser, whatever you want to do, and you can add to it. Say, if you wanted to put this on a hard drive, partition off a hard drive or whatever, and put it on there, you can do that. And if you want to add stuff to it, if you want to add other programs, you can do that. It's no problem. You just go to the repository, see, and click on it and add it, and it's off and running.
That program that we're seeing there occupies how much space?
It's 2-point-some gig, the whole thing, the whole mamma jamma. That's it, and it's on a 4 gig stick.
Lee, is there a version for a Raspberry Pi?
For what he's doing,
I mean, can you get that loaded on the Raspberry Pi?
you should be able to. I wouldn't see why not. It should go on there because you can, if you go to, if everybody wants to write this down, go to distrowatch.com, which is for Linux distribution, and there's a section on there about Raspberry Pi, and since this is a standard Ubuntu distribution, which is a Debian, you can see what it says about putting that on a Raspberry Pi, and they've got the step-by-step stuff. I don't own a Raspberry Pi, so I don't know. I know Dan owns about 10 of them, and he does a lot of things with Raspberry Pis, and he could answer that question pretty quick. But there's a good section on distrowatch.com that has for the Raspberry Pi stuff, because it's for Linux and all that. So to answer your question, I would think it would, with no problem.
Most Pis run Linux, right?
Right, exactly. So it should not be an issue at all. It should just load on there. It's just, it just should load. Because I know what we're using on the D-Star repeater, it's a Raspberry Pi, and it's running Linux, I forget which version it's on it now, so, but, huh? What?
Version on the Pi?
It's running, I forget what it's running now. I don't know, you'd have to ask Dan. I don't know what he put on it, but it runs the program and everything it needs to run the D-Star stuff. But anyway, so this, to answer your question, this is right out of the box, and I didn't really get into it, but I will. If you'll notice over here, down here at the bottom, it says it's not connected. This is your network manager. Now I'm doing wireless here. If you're hooked into a Ethernet, it's different. But like here's where we are now. This is upstairs or downstairs here for the chamber, Paulding County Chamber downstairs. We click on connect on that. It says it's encrypted, and when you bring it up, it comes up, and you put in your key here, your password, and whether it's a WPA or whatever you're using for your encryption. It's all right there, and it looks at your network card in your wireless in whatever you're running. Or if you're on a desktop and you're using a LAN, it would do the same thing. So you can set it up so that you can, get on the internet, no problem from there. So it's looking at your Wi-Fi card in the PC. Let's see what else I want to tell you. I think it was pretty much it. Cancel out of this. Oh, looky there. There's somebody's phone. I wonder who that is. WA4VMF. I wonder who that is. He's got his phone turned on. I can connect to him. He's got his hotspot on. He's not saying. Okay.
He left,
Did he leave?
he left.
Okay. Anyway, well, I picked him up earlier. So there you go. And of course, you've got, like I said, you've got Firefox on here. Now, he does not have any of the suites for, your word processing and all that. He doesn't have any of that on there because you can go put that on there yourself if you wanted to. He wanted to make it as lightweight as possible so that it would run amateur radio stuff and do it well and fast, and you could load it on a USB stick and let it rip. That was the main thing. So that's pretty much it. There again, if you get into, more of the Linux end of it on how to load this and how to load that, and partition this and partition that, which is not difficult. Download programs and add them and all, that's for another time. This was just to show what this is. And some of the more popular programs, like FLDigi for digital, he writes it for Windows, he writes it for Mac, he writes it for Linux, so they're all there. And you can use it some of the other programs are written, and they will write them for, either Windows or Mac or all three. So anyway, any other questions? All right, that's pretty much it. And the thing about it is, if you, I don't suggest doing this, but if you log out of it, I mean, if you're in a hurry and you got to go and you've got it on a USB stick, then basically what you can do is it shuts down really quick, and then you just close the stick, shut the lid, and you're done. You didn't hurt anything.
Yeah, it's nice. Very nice.